Cassie Mitchell stood in the driveway of her parents' house, looking at the trunk of her car. Inside sat 6 white takeout boxes, the expensive kind from upscale restaurants, stacked neatly in a carrier. Each box had a name written in elegant gold calligraphy on top: Mom, Dad, Ryan, Jessica, Aunt Linda, Uncle Tom. They looked like party favors. Expensive, thoughtful gifts for each family member. They weren't. Cassie had spent 5 years preparing these boxes. 5 years documenting every insult, every dismissal, every cruel comment her family had made about her. Screenshots of text messages, printed emails, voice recordings saved to USB drives, witness statements from people who'd heard what was said when they thought Cassie wasn't listening. Every slight, carefully cataloged, every piece of cruelty preserved and organized, all packaged in white boxes that looked innocent and festive. Her family thought she was the sensitive one, the one who overreacted, the one who couldn't take a joke and made everything about her. Today, she was going to show them exactly what they'd been serving her for years, and she was going to make them eat it. Cassie picked up the carrier, feeling the satisfying weight of documentation and truth. She'd been invited to Thanksgiving. Reluctantly, as always, the family obligation no one really wanted, but everyone felt they had to extend. "You're still coming Thursday, right?" her mother had texted last week. Not, "We'd love to see you," or "We miss you," just the bare minimum of familial duty. Cassie had responded with a simple "yes," and "I'm bringing something for everyone." Her mother had probably assumed she meant wine or dessert. She was bringing something much more substantial. Cassie walked to the front door, carrier in hand, and rang the bell. She could have used her key. She still had one. But this felt more appropriate. She wasn't family dropping by. She was a guest delivering a very specific message. Her mother opened the door, already dressed in her hostess outfit, smile fixed in place. "Cassie, you're here, and you brought, oh, what are those?" "Gifts," Cassie said simply. "For everyone. I thought it would be nice to have a little something special this year." Her mother's eyes lit up the way they always did at the appearance of propriety and thoughtfulness. "How lovely! Come in, come in! Your father's in the den! And Ryan and Jessica should be here any minute." Cassie stepped into the familiar house, the place where she'd grown up, where she'd been slowly diminished and dismissed for as long as she could remember. The house looked the same, perfectly decorated, not a thing out of place, all appearance and no warmth. Just like her family. She set the carrier on the dining room table, where her mother had already laid out the place settings with military precision. 6 places. 6 boxes. Perfect. "Should I put these at each person's seat?" Cassie asked, her voice pleasant and light. "What a sweet idea," her mother said, not even asking what was in them. "Yes, that would be lovely, like party favors." Cassie carefully placed each box at its corresponding seat. Mom at the head of the table, Dad across from her, Ryan and Jessica on one side, Aunt Linda and Uncle Tom on the other, and Cassie's seat, notably empty of a box, at the foot of the table. The only one not getting leftovers was the one who'd been served them for years. The family arrived in stages over the next 30 minutes. Ryan first, her older brother, with his wife Jessica. He barely glanced at Cassie, offering a perfunctory hey before heading to find their father. Jessica gave Cassie a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. They'd never liked each other, and Jessica had never bothered to hide it. Aunt Linda and Uncle Tom arrived next, her mother's sister and brother-in-law, both of whom had always treated Cassie like an amusing inconvenience rather than a person. Everyone noticed the white boxes at their seats. "Ooh, what are these?" Aunt Linda cooed, reaching for hers. "Wait until we sit down," Cassie said quickly. "I want everyone to open them together." "How mysterious," Linda laughed, but she set the box back down. They gathered in the living room for pre-dinner drinks, the usual small talk flowing around Cassie like water around a stone. No one asked her about her life. No one inquired about her work, her apartment, her interests. They talked about Ryan's promotion, Jessica's new car, Linda's recent cruise. Cassie sipped her wine and waited. Finally, her mother announced dinner was ready. They moved to the table, everyone taking their assigned seats, each person eyeing their mysterious white box with varying degrees of curiosity. Before we eat, Cassie said, standing at her place at the foot of the table, I'd like to say a few words. Her father looked irritated. He hated delays to meals, but nodded. Make it quick. I will, Cassie promised. I just wanted to thank you all for inviting me today. I know it's been difficult these past few years, with me being, well, the way I am. Her mother shifted uncomfortably. Ryan looked at his phone. You've all made it very clear, in various ways, that I don't quite fit with this family, that I'm too sensitive, too emotional, too difficult, that I overreact and can't take a joke and make mountains out of molehills. Cassie, her mother started. So I thought this Thanksgiving I would give each of you a gift, a reminder of all the times you've helped me understand exactly where I stand in this family. Cassie gestured to the boxes. Please, open them. There was a moment of hesitation, then Aunt Linda, never one to resist a gift, reached for her box and opened it. Inside were papers, dozens of papers, and a small USB drive. Linda pulled out the first sheet, her face going pale as she read it. What is this? She whispered. That, Cassie said calmly, is a text message you sent to Mom 3 years ago, after I told you I was going to therapy. You said, and I quote, typical Cassie, always making herself the victim. There's nothing wrong with her that growing up wouldn't fix. Linda's mouth opened and closed silently. The next page is an email you sent to your book club, which included my mother, about how you couldn't believe I'd worn jeans to your daughter's wedding. You called me classless and said it was embarrassing to be related to someone so clueless about basic etiquette. I didn't mean, Linda started. The USB drive has voice recordings, Cassie continued, her voice still perfectly calm and pleasant. 15 of them, actually. All from various family gatherings over the past 5 years. My favorite is from last Christmas, when you told Uncle Tom, while I was in the next room, that you felt sorry for any man who ended up with me because I was exhausting and needy. The table had gone completely silent. Mom, Dad, why don't you open yours? Cassie suggested. Her mother's hands shook as she opened her box. Her father's face was already turning red with anger, but he opened his anyway. Mom, your box contains 43 text messages sent to various family members about me over the past 5 years, including the one you sent to Aunt Linda last month that said, I don't know why Cassie insists on coming to these things when she clearly doesn't enjoy them. She just makes everyone uncomfortable. Her mother had tears in her eyes, but Cassie wasn't done. There's also a printed email you sent to Dad after I told you I was thinking about going back to school. You said I was wasting my life, and that you were embarrassed to tell people what your daughter does for a living. That was private, her mother protested. So were my feelings when you said it, Cassie replied. Dad, your box is particularly interesting. Her father hadn't touched the contents yet, just stared at the open box like it might bite him. Yours contains mostly voice recordings, including the lovely conversation you had with Uncle Tom at the 4th of July barbecue, where you said I was a disappointment, and that you didn't understand where you went wrong with me. Her father's jaw clenched. I was venting. You were standing 15 feet away from me, Cassie said. I heard every word, but I recorded it anyway, just to be sure I wasn't being too sensitive. She turned to Ryan and Jessica. Please, open yours. Ryan opened his box slowly, Jessica peering over his shoulder. Ryan, you're my brother, so your box is special. It contains 5 years of text messages where you've called me dramatic, attention-seeking, and the family problem. There's also a lovely screenshot from your group chat with your college friends, where you referred to me as my crazy sister, and joked about how I'd probably die alone with cats. Ryan's face had gone white. Jessica looked uncomfortable. Jessica, we've never liked each other, and you've never pretended otherwise, so I appreciate the honesty. Your box contains screenshots from your Instagram, including several posts where you've made thinly veiled comments about family members who create drama and people who make everything about them. You've tagged me in none of them, but you've made sure to post them right after family gatherings I attended. This is insane, Jessica said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Cassie asked. Is it insane to document the things people say about you? To keep receipts when you're constantly told you're imagining things or being too sensitive? She walked slowly around the table, past each family member sitting with their open boxes of documented cruelty. For 5 years I've been told I overreact, that I can't take a joke, that I'm too emotional, that I make things up or exaggerate or twist your words. She stopped at her own empty seat. So I started saving everything. Every text message where you talked about me behind my back. Every email where you criticized me to other family members. Every voice recording of conversations you thought I couldn't hear. Every social media post with its little digs and implications. I documented it all, every single thing. Cassie sat down at her place, looking at her family, each one of them staring at the evidence in front of them, unable to deny or dismiss or explain away what was literally in their hands. These are your leftovers, Cassie said quietly. Everything you've served me over the years, packaged up and returned to you. Every insult, every dismissal, every cruel comment. All of it saved, preserved, and presented back to you with the same care you used when delivering them to me. This is, her father struggled for words. This is vindictive. No, Cassie corrected. Vindictive would be posting all of this online. Vindictive would be sending it to your employers, your friends, your social circles. Vindictive would be making sure everyone in your lives knew exactly what kind of people you are behind closed doors. She leaned forward slightly. This is just honesty. This is just showing you what you've done. Because every time I tried to tell you that you hurt me, you told me I was wrong, that I was too sensitive, that I couldn't take a joke. Well, here are the jokes, here are the comments, here are your own words, in your own hand, in your own voice. You can't tell me I'm imagining them now. The silence was crushing. Aunt Linda was crying. Her mother looked devastated. Her father looked furious but trapped. Ryan stared at his phone like he wished he could disappear into it. Jessica's face was a mask of defensive anger. Why? Her mother finally whispered. Why would you do this? Because I needed you to see it, Cassie said. I needed you to see what you've been doing to me. Not through my overly sensitive lens, but through your own words. Your own proof. She stood up. I didn't come here for forgiveness. I didn't come here expecting apologies, though you all owe me several years' worth. I came here to give you back what you gave me. Every single leftover. Cassie picked up her purse. I'm going to leave now. You all can sit here with your boxes and decide what to do with them. You can throw them away and pretend this never happened. You're good at that. Or you can actually read through them, listen to the recordings, and maybe, finally, understand why I've been uncomfortable at family gatherings. Cassie, wait, Ryan started. No, Cassie said firmly. I've waited 5 years. I've waited through every insult, every dismissal, every time you made me feel like I was crazy for being hurt by the things you said and did. I'm done waiting. She walked to the door, then paused and looked back at the table, at 6 people sitting with white boxes full of their own cruelty, unable to escape or deny what was right in front of them. Happy Thanksgiving, Cassie said. Enjoy your leftovers. And she walked out. Cassie sat in her car for a long moment before starting the engine. Her hands were shaking, not from fear or regret, but from the sheer relief of finally being heard. Not by their choice, but by undeniable evidence. She'd expected to feel angry, vindictive, triumphant. Instead, she felt free. For 5 years, she'd carried the weight of their judgment, their dismissals, their constant message that she was the problem. She'd questioned herself endlessly. Was she too sensitive? Was she imagining things? Was she making mountains out of molehills? The boxes had been her answer. Not just to them, but to herself. No, she wasn't imagining it. She wasn't too sensitive. She was being hurt, and she had every right to acknowledge that hurt. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan, we need to talk about this. Then her mother, please come back. We can discuss this like adults. Then Jessica, this was completely inappropriate. Then Aunt Linda, I'm very hurt by this, Cassie. Cassie read each message, felt the familiar pull of guilt and obligation, the voice in her head that said she should go back, should apologize, should make this easier for them. Then she deleted the messages and blocked all their numbers. She was done making things easier for people who made things harder for her. 3 days later, Cassie received an email from her mother. The subject line, please read. Cassie almost deleted it without opening. But curiosity, or maybe the last shred of hope she didn't know she still carried, made her click. Cassie, I've spent the last 3 days reading through everything in my box. I've read it multiple times. I've listened to the recordings. I've sat with what I said, what I wrote, what I did. You were right. I want to say I didn't mean it, or I didn't realize how it sounded, or I was just venting. But the truth is, I said those things. I wrote those words. And whether I meant them the way you heard them or not doesn't matter. The fact is, they hurt you. Repeatedly. For years. I've been a terrible mother to you, Cassie. I've dismissed your feelings, invalidated your experiences, and made you feel like you were the problem when you were just trying to tell me I was hurting you. I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if you should. But I want you to know that I finally see it. I finally see what I've been doing to you. The boxes made me see it in a way your words never could, because I always found a way to dismiss your words. But I can't dismiss my own. I'm sorry, truly deeply sorry. If you're willing, I'd like to talk, really talk, not the surface conversations we've been having for years. But if you're not ready, or if you're never ready, I understand. You deserved better from me. You deserved better from all of us. I'm so sorry it took white boxes full of evidence for me to see that. Love, Mom. Cassie read the email 3 times. It was the first real apology she'd ever received from her mother. The first acknowledgement that wasn't qualified or defensive or followed by an excuse. She didn't respond immediately. She let herself sit with it, feel it, decide what she wanted to do with it. Over the next week, she received similar emails from Ryan and even Aunt Linda. Her father sent a brief text. I was wrong. I'm sorry. It wasn't much, but coming from him, it was something. Jessica didn't reach out, but Cassie hadn't expected her to. Cassie thought about the boxes. About the 5 years she'd spent collecting evidence, the anger and hurt she'd carefully documented and preserved. She thought about walking into that dining room and watching each person's face as they opened their leftovers. It had felt necessary. It had felt right. But what felt right now? She made a decision. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Cassie met her mother for coffee. She chose a neutral location, a cafe neither of them frequented. She arrived early, claimed a corner table, and waited. Her mother arrived exactly on time, looking older and more uncertain than Cassie had ever seen her. Thank you for agreeing to meet, her mother said, sitting down carefully, like she was afraid sudden movements might spook Cassie into leaving. I almost didn't, Cassie said honestly. I wouldn't have blamed you. They sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then her mother spoke again. I've been in therapy since Thanksgiving. I know that sounds like something I'm saying to impress you, but I needed help, understanding how I got here, how I became someone who could hurt her own daughter so casually, so repeatedly. Cassie waited. My therapist asked me to read through the box contents again, but this time to imagine someone saying those things about Jessica's children, about Ryan's future kids. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. And I couldn't. I physically couldn't imagine speaking about someone else's child the way I spoke about mine. So why was it okay to say about me? Cassie asked quietly. It wasn't, her mother said immediately. It was never okay. I think I fell into a pattern of making you the problem, because it was easier than admitting our family had problems. If you were too sensitive, I didn't have to examine why I was being insensitive. If you were dramatic, I didn't have to look at why I was being dismissive. She reached across the table but didn't touch Cassie's hand, just left her own there, an offering. You were the truth teller in our family. And instead of listening to the truth, I tried to silence the teller. Cassie felt something crack in her chest, not breaking, but opening. Like a door she'd kept locked for self-protection was finally safe to open a crack. The boxes hurt, her mother continued. They were meant to hurt. And they did. But they woke me up. They made me see what I couldn't deny anymore. That was the point, Cassie said. I tried telling you for years. You never listened. I know. And I'm so sorry. They talked for 2 hours. Really talked. Maybe for the first time in Cassie's adult life. Her mother didn't defend herself or make excuses. She asked questions, real questions, about how Cassie felt, what she needed, what would help. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. As they were leaving, her mother said, "Can I ask you something?" "Okay." "What did you feel after you gave us the boxes and left?" Cassie thought about it. "Free," she finally said. "For the first time in my life, I felt free. Because I wasn't carrying the weight of your judgment anymore. I gave it back to you. All of it." Her mother nodded slowly. "That's what leftovers are, aren't they? Things that were served once, saved, and then returned to the table. You served us back what we'd been serving you." "Yes," Cassie said. "It was brilliant," her mother said quietly. "Cruel, maybe, but brilliant, and deserved." "It was necessary," Cassie corrected. "For me, I needed to stop being gaslit. I needed proof that I wasn't imagining things, and I needed you all to face what you'd been doing." "Mission accomplished," her mother said with a sad smile. They parted with a tentative hug. Brief, awkward, but real. 6 months later, Cassie's relationship with her family looked completely different. She'd set firm boundaries. No unsolicited comments about her life choices, no dismissing her feelings, no talking about her behind her back. If they had concerns, they addressed her directly or kept silent. Her mother honored those boundaries. Ryan, after some initial resistance, did too. Aunt Linda apologized formally and gave Cassie space. Her father was the slowest to change, but even he had stopped his casual cruelty. Jessica remained distant, and Cassie was fine with that. Not every relationship needed to be saved. Cassie attended some family gatherings and skipped others. She said yes when she wanted to, and no without guilt. She shared parts of her life selectively and kept other parts private. The boxes had done what years of conversation couldn't. They'd made it impossible to deny, dismiss, or gaslight. They'd forced accountability through undeniable evidence. People asked her sometimes if she regretted it. The public exposure, the confrontation, the cruelty of making them face their own words. "No," she always said. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that nothing else worked. But I don't regret doing it." She kept copies of everything, of course. Not as ammunition, but as reminder to herself that she hadn't been crazy, hadn't been too sensitive, hadn't been imagining things. The leftovers had been real. The hurt had been valid. And she'd had every right to serve it back. The following Thanksgiving, Cassie hosted her own dinner. She invited friends, chosen family, who'd supported her through the years when blood family had hurt her. People who'd listened when she talked about the casual cruelties, who'd validated her feelings when her family had dismissed them. She didn't invite her biological family. It wasn't punishment, it was self-care. She wasn't ready for that yet, maybe wouldn't ever be. Her mother texted, "I understand. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with people who appreciate you. You deserve that." It was the right response, the healthy response, the response of someone who was actually listening now. Cassie replied, "Thank you. Maybe next year." Maybe. At her own table, surrounded by people who actually cared about her, Cassie raised a glass. "I'm grateful," she said, "for the people who see me, really see me, who don't make me question my reality or gaslight my experiences, who love me without conditions or criticisms." She looked around the table at faces that smiled back with genuine warmth. "And I'm grateful I finally learned that I don't have to accept leftovers from anyone. Not in food, and definitely not in how I'm treated." They clinked glasses, and for the first time in her life, Cassie had a Thanksgiving where she didn't go home feeling small or hurt or invisible. Because she'd finally given back all the leftovers she'd been served for years. And in doing so, she'd made room for something fresh, something nourishing, something that actually fed her soul instead of starving it. The white boxes had been her declaration, "I'm done accepting this." And everything that came after had been her proof, "I meant it." Some people never learn. Some families never change. But Cassie had learned. She'd changed. And she'd made it clear that anyone who wanted to be in her life had to change too. No more leftovers. Only what was fresh, honest, and served with actual care. That was the feast she deserved. And that was the feast she'd finally given herself.